How is everyone doing today? And in this video, we are going to be talking about an interview that we got from Zenless 0, and it's actually very interesting what they have. Now, I have already read it. I have a bunch of dot points that I have of every topic that they listed and a summary of the answer and giving my thoughts on it. I think it's going to be a really cool thing to talk about because not only does this show you not only the feedback that they got from us and also what they're planning to do with it, but they also show us a lot of sneak peeks, what's going to happen in the future, how their future for the game is looking like. Is a lot of really cool stuff that you probably want to know if you want to get into Zenless 0. So before we get into all that, make sure you leave a like, comment, sub, all that different type of stuff, and let me know what you are most excited for Zenless 0, because we have a live stream coming very soon and we also have live release coming very soon as well. So I'm super excited to be able to cover it, and let's just get into the interview. So for the first thing, I think a lot of the interviews have some of the similar beginning of how they work, which is asking for the inspirations, and some of the inspirations that they have were Persona 5, Digimon World, and Street Fighter. Now they wanted to take some aspects of these games, or they wanted to take a couple of them and then infuse it to their game in a certain way to make it unique to just them. So 100% when you play the game, you're gonna feel that Persona vibe, you're gonna feel like the Digimon World vibe if you played it somehow, which they said that they took some of the stuff from there so that they could make Zenless 0. And then Street Fighter 6, they actually took this for the fact that they want to make sure that the moves feel like how they look on screen. So if you do a light slash, it feels light. If you do a very heavy hit, it feels heavy, which I think is a really good thing. I know impact feels very, I guess you could say, close to the player, because if you see a character and they're doing some like strong punches or strong swings of the sword and they feel light, it feels off and it doesn't feel right when you play the game. And I think that's a very important aspect of it, especially when your game is as combat heavy as Zenless 0. So it's a cool thing that they're looking towards a fighting game and trying to take some aspects of that to make it feel more, I say, smooth as possible for the combat they have in the game. Now, one thing that they do preface in the interview as well is they don't want to overwhelm players at the current moment when it comes to the start of the game and giving them an insane amount of difficulty, an insane amount of stuff to do at the very end, because they don't want it to be daunting by the time you get there. So what they do want to do is actually introduce things as time goes by. They want to make sure they're teaching you things as you level up, so they don't want to give you the full tutorial all at the start. They want to make sure you have a segment here, maybe a couple levels later, a segment there, and they keep doing it that way. That way you don't have information overload. You're able to learn what you previously were taught, and then you go learn the next thing, and then the same process happens. You learn something, you put into practice, you master it, you learn something again. I think that's a really good thing to not overwhelm players, especially those that are not as heavy into combat games and those that take a little bit more time to learn things, because if you never got the chance to learn the previous thing, how are you going to learn the new thing? I think this is really good for them and really good overall designer progress for the players when it comes to Zenless 0. And one thing that they are very proud of themselves for is definitely to keep the fact that we have switch canceling in the game, or switch teching, however you want to say it, which is having one character on the field, they're doing damage, and then you switch into your other character, and while the animation of the first character is still playing, you're able to control the second character, which is a very important thing in this game, and was going to net you a fat ton of damage, which even allows you to do way bigger combos, way crazier stuff as time goes by. And with every single character coming out, that's going to be infinite amount of possibilities, which is overall very exciting. So he 100% is very excited to be able to have this in the game, especially since he compared it to something like Genshin, where they said that if you switch a character in Genshin while they're fighting, either they're completely off the field or it basically blocks you from doing so. So they very much pride themselves on that, and I'm very glad that they're taking some of the mechanics that are in other games, or some of the mechanics that they enjoy, and they are seeing a lot of benefit from it. So it's really cool to see that that went well for them, and I'm very excited for that as well. They also want to say that for the players that probably don't feel like getting on for the day, they definitely don't want to penalize you. They want to make sure that some of the dailies, because of course when you get to end game, you need to do your dailies, you need to do your routine, and they want to make sure it's as relaxed as possible, so that when it comes to getting these done, you don't feel like you have to get on the game, that it's an absolute chore. You log on, you do these really quick and fast dailies, you do your quick routine, and they want to make sure it's as smooth and as relaxed as possible. So if you don't feel like playing the game, you still get on the game, do the stuff that you need to do, and then you get right back off and you're done for the rest of the day. They really want to make sure that they preface the time aspect of the players and respect the time that you're putting into the game, and also respect that maybe not all the time you're going to want to be playing the game at the same time, or if you have other games you want to prioritize those and maybe come back to Zenless, they want to make sure that you have that option if you want to. Now, the main thing that a lot of people are probably wondering about is the TV system. And they definitely talked a bit about it when it comes to the feedback we gave them in CBT2, how they fixed it, and how they intend to go with it in the future. So talking about it at first, they heard us talk about how we don't like it as much. And the weird thing, that the dev team really loves it. They really like that aspect of the game, and I can see why. They put a lot of work into it. They put in their own unique taste to the game, but it sucks that a lot of us probably don't like it as much. But for me personally, I think that the TVs are not as much of an issue, especially when it's placed in the right spot. And not only that, I do think that they should probably rework it a little bit more, because when you play the events that will be later on in the first patch, if they have the same ones from CBT2 and CBT3, the TV system in those events are actually very, very fun. Those are very, very good aspects and very, very good levels for the TV, and I hope they carry that over onto wherever they're going to use it, because they have promise. They actually have good gameplay if they do it the way they had it. The ones from the story, though, earlier on, now that one was an issue because there was just so much in CBT2, which I have played both betas. From CBT2 to CBT3, they did feel like there was a lot less because it felt less intrusive. You were fighting a lot more, which is a really good thing. The next thing is that they 100% don't intend on completely ruining the TV system, but they do want to make sure that they make it better and also better placed within the game, so that it doesn't feel like you're getting smothered by it or that you're playing too much of it, which I think, honestly, I don't know anyone that probably would have thought they would have absolutely taken the TV system out. I do think with how the modes are in the game, you have combat, you have rally, you also have other modes that are in the game, Shield defense. There's a lot of stuff in the game at the current moment that doesn't have the TV system at all. So I do think they're going to keep a lot of it without TVs. I just think that the system where the TVs are at, they're going to make sure that it's good and properly placed, which I think was going to be the main portion of the game anyway. And you barely see the TVs after the first portion of the tutorial and the first couple of chapters of the story. So this is overall a really good thing as well. They also looked at how we gave them feedback in CBT2 and made sure they changed the placing and the flow of the TVs to make it not feel as intrusive, because even they themselves in CBT2 said, yeah, we kind of put too much. They literally said that in their interview. We kind of accidentally put too much in, so we dialed it back. We made sure to properly place it in the right spot, and they heard how great, or the feedback that we gave them for CBT3 and how little TVs they were. They said that we changed the pacing, we changed where it was placed. There really wasn't that much taken out, but it felt like it was a lot better because it was placed properly, and that's the way they wanted to keep it, which is a really cool thing, and I'm glad that they're doing so in making sure that they figure out how to place it, where to put it, so that it doesn't feel as crazy and as heavy on us as it would be. So they realized they put a little too much in it, which was funny in my honest opinion. And let's go into the next thing, which are some of the aspects that they're looking forward to on players. And they want to ease in players to relatively easier content before they start ramping up the difficulty. This is for the beginners, the very laid back casuals. They want to make sure that you are enjoying the game, understand the mechanics of the game, and then get used to how to play the game before they start introducing a little bit more difficult content, which I think is a good thing. You always want to make sure that you're getting characters or players into the door, letting them have their fun, and if they choose to or want to play these difficult events, they can go ahead and do so. So that's a really nice thing. They don't want to go ahead and throw you into a shark pit when it comes to getting into the game. They want to let you have your little swim, and then we'll introduce the shark pit, which is actually very interesting that they're going to look at ramping up the difficulty whenever the time is right, which is really, really nice. They also said they want to introduce more enemies as time goes by, and very in a good, efficient manner, which they want to make sure that they're doing it whenever it feels necessary, because they feel like it would be boring to fight against the same enemies every single time you go do something, which is something that happens a lot in a bunch of different gacha games. That there's not a lot of variety when it comes to the enemies that you're usually fighting against, when it comes to the end game loop, when it comes to the grinding. So it is a really good thing that they have this as a prioritization, which is overall a good thing for the game. Another thing is they do want to not penalize, like I said before, players that have taken a break, players that aren't playing the game as quickly as others, and they want to have some type of quick start feature, which is in HSR and also in Genshin, where usually some gacha games, they have it to where you end up having an event that's only accessible through a certain amount of quests or defeating an enemy or anything like that. They want to make it so that whenever you go into the game and you see, oh my god, there's a really cool event, there's a really cool character I could get, you have the option to skip all of the prerequisites and go straight to the event, which is really good for those that are trying to get back into the game to be able to play the brand new stuff while not being penalized for leaving for so long. because for the players that are playing non-stop, y'all are gonna be able to access it. Y'all have all the rewards since the beginning of the game, while those that are taking a break, although they might not have as many rewards from the logins, from all the other things that come throughout the game, they're still able to play the new content when they come back with whatever teams that they have. So this is actually a really good thing. I'm very glad that they're taking some aspects of Genshin and Star Rail, so this is really, really cool. Now, one thing they also want to talk about when it comes to the characters themselves, they're definitely prioritizing quality over quantity, which is a really nice thing that they have. They said that every single character, they want to make sure it's super unique. They want to make sure they're in depth as possible, that no one looks the same, no one feels the same. And I think it's a really, really great thing, especially for Zenless Zone Zero, because of how combat oriented this game is. So I'm very glad that they're prioritizing that. And one super funny thing when I was reading the interview, as they literally just said in their interview, we kind of forgot to put healers in the game, which I thought that was really funny, that the fact that they literally just was like, oh, we forgot to add that. The main thing is that they didn't know how to make a healer look in Zenless Zone Zero and how they would play when it comes to it being as action heavy as it is. So they kind of forgot to put it in when they were making their first set of initial characters, which is funny that that's the case, but I'm 100% sure when they figure out the design, when they figure out how the healers are supposed to work out, they're going to be going ahead, bringing it up, and a lot of players are going to be spending on that character, specifically because if you have a healer now you can get through a little bit more content if you're not as akin to parrying and so dodging. So this is a really cool thing. I just think it's funny they literally said we kind of forgot. That's kind of funny in my honest opinion. They also want to keep the screen clean when it comes to the effects that are on the characters, because sometimes in a lot of gacha games, whether you have buffs, whether you have like sub DPS abilities, there could be a lot of stuff on your screen at the same time, and sometimes it gets a little bit hard to see, sometimes it gets a little bit hard to understand what's going on. So they want to make sure that they have really cool looking effects, that these effects are as minimal as possible and don't clutter up the screen as much, which is a really good thing overall. They do want to make sure, and this is something that is very exciting, is that they noticed, or the interviewer noticed, that there's no collaborations besides like Alloy and Genshin, and then Star Wars has no collaborations as well. So they asked ZZZ, are y'all going to be collabing with other like titles, other entities, other characters? And they definitely are looking to potentially collab with other series, because they themselves are very big fans of the anime industry, the video game industry, so they would 100% look forward to doing something maybe in the future. It's not 100% set in stone, of course, because these deals are very, very big when it comes to allowing a character, allowing some type of collaboration to happen between another game, because it has a lot of questions and answerings and contracts and all that. So I'm pretty sure they were 100% down for it, especially with all the inspiration they've taken from a lot of different games, and also how much they love the game genre itself, and also the genre of characters that there are for these types of games. But of course, that's its own crazy thing. So they're looking for it, but they're not going to have that as a super prioritization at the current moment. They also talk about something that is honestly interesting that I saw, was that they talked about the censorship, and they definitely saw the Twitter storm that happened when they nerfed Nicole, when they nerfed some of the gore that was in the story. And they 100% said that this wasn't intentional in the regards to people thinking that we are being censored because of the CCP, I think that's how you say it. But they do want to say that they operate globally, so they don't really confine to any rules. They just thought that was the best for their game personally, and then they're trying their best. They're 100% not trying to ruin the game or make things that were promised and changing that up. They're trying to make the game, as I could say, as close to their original thought as possible. So they want to make sure that they're letting that be known, that they're not tied to any censorship laws, not tied to any guidelines. They are able to do whatever they want. They're just doing what's best for their game, and that's what they kind of want to implement when it comes to what they're showing off of their game. One really nice thing is that their team, for the dev team, has went from 60 members to 400 members. So that is actually really cool to see that they're growing, that Zenless Zone Zero is going to be having a lot of work done when it comes to having all of those employees being able to help out the game, which is gonna be really nice. They did say that for a lot of people that are interested in knowing, is that they do use AI for the programming aspect, so that to help out with very mundane tasks, very repetitive tasks, but they do not want to touch the art mixed with AI. They think that the human touch is very, very crucial to a lot of the designs that there are in the game, and I think that's a very nice thing to look at, that they don't want to try to abuse what a lot of other companies or a lot of other people do with art, with mixed in with AI. I think that's a little bit weird when it comes to the base of where the AI is taking some of that art from. So the fact that they're only using it for mundane tasks, for very repetitive tasks in coding and debugging, and they're not really wanting to look forward to AI art, really nice thing for a lot of the people that are interested. And then they do, similarly like HSR and Genshin, want to incorporate cultures within characters coming out, and they want to make sure that the places that you visit, the places that you're going to be in, are very lively and feel alive compared to just a big city. So I think this is really cool. I think we're going to get a lot of different stuff when it comes to Zenless in the future of the game, and I cannot wait to see what it's going to look in the future patches. We did see a new location that was teased, which is Lumina Square, so this is really cool. I think they're trying to ramp up or showcase slightly, because I know there's a Bilibili page, if I'm not wrong, that show these VTuber factions, which is going to be really cool if that's the case. And I know they did make a tweet about it as well when people were leaking it, and they said, well, we're just gonna have to show y'all, I guess, because people wanted to leak it, which sucks if that was the case. And other things that they asked really quickly is there going to be features from Genshin and HSR that they're going to add to ZZZ? And the dev team said, well, yes, but in a way that conforms to our game, which makes a lot of sense. They don't want to just take up straight features from those games, because they may not work as similarly to something like that when it comes to those features implemented into ZZZ. So they want to make sure that those things are 100% relative to the game, and they also want to make sure that when they are relative to the game, they make sense for the game. So that is honestly, like, I can't really say much else when it comes to why they wouldn't do most of those features, because I know Genshin is starting to catch up with HSR, and HSR has been doing really great quality of life changes, so ZZZ is trying to follow in suit. Music is a big part of ZZZ's foundation, which 100% I know all of us can see that with how we have the disk drives, how we have the W engines, all that different type of stuff. Really cool stuff to see. And then lastly, of course, something I covered before was that they are excited to hopefully have a release on Xbox and Switch. Of course, that regards a lot of contracts, a lot of askings and questions and all that type of stuff. So we're gonna have to see how that works. It would be really, really cool for a Hoyoverse game to be put on Xbox and Switch, because that opens up the door, especially for Xbox, when it comes to HSR also being on the Xbox and also Genshin. So that would be a very big community we're opening up to. It would be really cool to see how that would work out. But before we get into all that, or actually now that we're done with all that, that's it for the interview. That's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. Let me know what you thought about the interview. I think this is actually really, really cool, especially with the transparency they're giving us within showing us updates, showing us what they did with the feedback, showing us inspirations. Really, really cool stuff from the dev team. I cannot wait for the game to release, and I cannot wait for the live stream. So other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. See you on the next one, and peace.